Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back to the garden, where together we explore what it means to live out Kingdom of Heaven principles. My name is Azaria, and I'm glad you decided to spend a few moments with me this Shabbat. Let's dive in. What comes to mind when you hear the word separation? For me, the word reminds me of painful emotions reflecting isolation, brokenness, distance, and loss. If the word separation evokes similar emotions for you, then perhaps we can do some reframing of this concept together. What if separation isn't always about isolation, loss, and hurt, but instead reflects one of the most beautiful and life-giving aspects of YHWH, our God's true nature? Genesis chapter 1 is the first written introduction we have to YHWH, our God, his nature, and his character. So let's take a look at a few of the verses. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. On the first day, YHWH begins creation by calling forth light to separate light from the darkness. Then he gives the things he separated names: day for the light and night for the darkness. We see him doing something similar on the second day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters, to separate the waters from the waters." So God made the expanse and separated the waters beneath it from the waters above. And it was so. God called the expanse sky. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. On this second day, YHWH, he calls forth an expanse to separate the waters below the earth from the waters above the earth. Then he gives that expanse that he separated a name called sky. So once again, on day 2, he's doing more separation. On day 3, we see a pattern of separation taking hold. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered into one place, so that dry land may appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. So on the third day, he calls the waters to gather, and thus he's separating dry land from water. And then he gives these things that he separated names: earth for land and seas for the waters. YHWH continues creating on days 4, 5, and 6, and then he stops. On day 7, he stopped creating. There was no more creating on that day. But he did continue one thing. He continued the process of separating. In the beginning of Genesis chapter 2, we see this: "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. And by the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on that day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because on that day, he rested from all the work of creation that he had accomplished." Here, YHWH begins the 7th day with rest, and after resting, he blessed the 7th day and sanctified it. The word sanctify means to set apart. So even though YHWH had finished the work that he had been doing on days 1 through 6, according to his nature, he continued to separate. And on day 7, YHWH separated the 6 days designated for work from the 7th day designated for rest. Perhaps saying that YHWH is a God of separation is awkwardly worded and gives a connotation that makes us uncomfortable. Perhaps calling YHWH the God who distinguishes or makes a distinction is better suited to our ears in our modern context, but they more or less mean the same thing. Maybe you will agree with me that we can call YHWH the God who distinguishes. Did you notice that almost every time Yahuwah makes a distinction, he follows it by giving the things he distinguished a name: day, night, sky, earth, seas. So, once Yahuwah distinguishes something, it has identity, and it can be known for what it is. Did you also notice that almost every time Yahuwah made a distinction during creation week, he called the distinction good? On day 1, he called the light distinguished from the darkness good. On day 3, he called the seas distinguished from dry ground good. On day 4, he called the lights in the skies that distinguish between day and night, appointed times from normal days in one year from the next, he called them good. On day 5, he created the distinctions between the birds in the air and the creatures in the sea, each according to its kind, and called them good. On the 6th day, he created distinctions between each of the creatures that move along the land, each according to its kind, and called them good. And finally, on the 7th day, he distinguished days for working from the day for rest and called it good. From this pattern, perhaps we can surmise that Yahuwah is not only the God who makes a distinction, but that he makes a distinction for the purpose of identifying and calling forth good. Yahuwah has been making distinctions to identify and call forth what is good from the very beginning, as we see in Genesis. And he still does this today. In Leviticus 19:2, many years after creation, Yahuwah says to his people, he says, "Be holy, because I, Yahuwah your God, am holy." He once again was making a distinction. Did you know that to be holy means to be set apart? So when Yahuwah told his people to be holy, he was telling them to be set apart because he is set apart. Or in other words, he was telling them to be distinguished as he is distinguished. Therefore, since Yahuwah our God calls us to be like him, we should make every effort to do so, distinguishing and setting apart everything that he distinguished and set apart for good. I'll leave you with one question. Since Yahuwah instructed us to distinguish ourselves just as he distinguishes himself, could it be that some of the confusion, hurt, and trials in our lives arise when we fail to distinguish what Yahuwah has distinguished? Until next time, Shabbat Shalom.